Hello and welcome to the 7th hobby vlog from Beard Clipper. 7 is incredible, and I've managed to do it every week, even this week. This is the Sunday before Christmas Day, and this week has been less busy than other weeks, but there's still a fair amount to show you, and I've even managed to get some links into some other videos which are below to give you some of those beginner tips which I'm starting to build up. So grab yourself a cup of tea, settle down and enjoy, and I will see you at the end. Next up for the hobby holes, I'm going to paint the details. I'm going to do that before I do the flocking so that I can then cover any mistakes using flock. I'm going to paint the wood. I'm going to do a wood colour on the door, and then I'm going to put another colour over the door because I want it to look like maybe it's, if I miss anything, at least you can see the wood through it and it doesn't look white. So let me get my paints together, I'll show you what I'm going to use, and then I'm going to get started. The first colour I'm going to use is the Vallejo Old Wood, which I'm going to paint over all of the wood. And then I'm going to use wood grain, which gives it a nice depth, which I'll paint over some parts of it, but not all of it. So I'll put on my music, and you can watch me speed paint as I give this a very good shake, which Vallejo needs. Exposed wood done. What I'm now going to do, a little bit more of that wood colour, as I happen to have actually put exactly the correct amount on to finish it off, and I'm going to do the door. And I've also identified some areas where I should have put the brown colour on, like here and just around here, which I didn't do. So what I'll probably end up doing is adding that on as well, but I won't do that on camera, but I'll just get some paint and cover that over. There you are. With that done, I will now do the other two, which are larger, and I won't do them on camera, otherwise this will be the longest ever speeded up section in the history of Beard Clipper, and I'll be back when I have completed them as well. That old wood is a brilliant colour. It gets a big thumbs up from me, I can tell you. It looks brilliant. And I've done that to all of the Hobbit holes. So now I'm going to start painting some of the details. And for this, I've picked out pastel blue, if that'll focus, there we are, pastel blue from Vallejo, surprise surprise, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint that on the details. So that's going to go on the door, and it's also going to go on the back for these little details on the windows that you can see here. So let's do that. one done. I will now pick different colours for the other doors and we'll get back to you when I have done them. That is all of the painted wood done, and I've done this one as I showed you with the blue. I've done one with just a flat red, and I've done another with the intermediate green, all from Vallejo. So what I'm now going to be doing is working on the stonework, which is on this miniature around the door and also up here on the chimney. So for that I have two different washes again from Vallejo. I have the game colour pale grey and I have a dark grey wash as well, both of them from Vallejo. So I have my plastic palette, which I'll put some of the wash on. Put that on around the chimney first, I think, to see how that works. Yes, that's going to work fine. As you can see, it is highlighting out the nice textures, but not overwhelming the fact that this is a light coloured stone. And that's what I want to achieve. I don't want this to be too dark. These are Hobbit Holes. They should be bright, shouldn't they? So there we have it. That is quite effective, I think. Oh, you can't see because of where I've put it. Let's push that back. Right, so there we have it. That is quite effective, I think. I will go and apply this technique to the other miniatures, to the models. And we'll be back when that is done. These are really starting to take shape now. I'm going to do two processes for this one. I'm going to do the wood grain that I mentioned earlier on all of the wood. And I'm also going to use brass for the doorknobs. You can see I've put some blue on this one, but I don't think I like it. I think that I'm going to do all of that brass. So. There we are. So now I'll do that process for the other two models. Next up, I have something a little different. You can hear the kettle boiling in the background. I do like my cups of tea. I'm going to put together this War Bases archery butt, which is going to be leaning up against the front of one of the Hobbit Holes. The next process on these Hobbit Holes is going to be doing the flocking. Now, that's something that I've done before, so once again I will do the small Hobbit hole and then finish the rest off not on camera. So I will just get myself set and then carry on with that task. I have to gather together a lot of different colours of flock, as I'm going to be doing not just grass but also some flowers. First of all, I have the glue mix. I will link to my video about that, which hopefully I'll publish by the time I publish this. I filmed it ages ago, haven't got around to publishing it yet. This is a mix of PVA, water, and also washing up liquid, like your dishwasher liquid, or just soap, which is used to prevent it from going off and act as a flow agent. That will do for that. As per usual, I will start with my dark green, which is what I like to use as my base. And we'll carefully scatter that over. lighter green to add some highlights. And then last but not least, on the grass colours, I have what is actually called grass colour on the paint, which I use to make it. And this I will use very sparingly as it is much brighter, but it really does add a nice highlight. Bit of mud around the door, that's half fine. A little bit of green underneath the window. And then what I'll do to tie it all together is another overscatter of the darker colour. There we are. That's how I flock. I'm going to carry on with this and do the rest, and I'll be back when I've finished that. That's the flocking done on these 3 Hobbit Holes, and I'm very, very pleased with the result. They look amazing. I think the sculpts are very nice, and they're going to just really work well on the tabletop. I'm going to do the coloured flocks another time. I'm going to let this all dry because I will need to seal this and then put the coloured flocks over the top of the greens. So that's going to be that for now, but I've gone from just having only the primer all the way through to that stage in maybe an hour, hour and a half of hobbying. So that's been very quick, and they're going to look great on the table. I'm really looking forward to getting them used now. I'm really pleased to have started so finally, having had them on the shelf for so long. So the next time you see this will be another day, and I'll be working on another process. Next up on the field, I would like to put a pond in this corner. So what I'm going to do is line where I've drawn in pencil here with some of this WS Scenics glue, which holds its shape a bit better than PVA. And then I'm simply going to use the sand to scatter over the top of that. What that will do is create a very simple dam, so when I then come to do the rest of my terrain, it won't go into there, and I can leave that clear for my paint and then Liquitex. So I have the sand, and I will scatter it over. This is not a very scientific technique, but I know that it works. Apart from when a big dollop falls out like that. As if by magic, we have the outline of a pond. I will leave that to dry, and then I will put my scenic paint around the rest of it to cover it over, and that will not now bleed into my pond. Next up, we're going to put the terrain paint and sand over the rest of this field. So I have given this a very good shake. Let's get it open, paint it on liberally, and then sprinkle the sand over. As you can see, I'm pretty liberal with my application of the paint, and also with the amount of sand that I sprinkle. I'm also moving around the board in sections, so I've done this little bit, and then a bit over here, and then a bit here. What I will now do, in a very short while, is empty all that sand that's loose back into my bucket, and do the bits that I missed. It dries very quickly because the sand soaks up the water and the glue, and so it does go off very quickly, so that you can empty this off pretty much as long as that's been. Let's do that. And there you can see that that has worked very nicely. I have my area here which I wanted, which is for my pond, but the rest of the bit is getting covered with sand well. So let's carry on and do the rest. So there you are. I will go and wash my brush, which is the first thing to do once you finish using the brush. Always clean it in cold water. And when I come back, I will empty that off and I will turn the camera back on to show you what that looks like. That is done, and I will now leave that to go off until tomorrow or the next day whenever I come back to it. One of the comments I had after the last vlog, which will date this video for you, vlog number 6, was that I was a bit crazy to have only stuck these on the surface and not to have drilled. And while I think it will be okay for my purposes, I also think that in the future I might try to do that technique to show it as well. Now for me, I'm only making these terrain pieces for myself and for Angela, so we're pretty careful when we play, and they're not getting very much hard use or many hard knocks. However, that will probably be way too delicate if you're going to take this to a club or have this in any way used in a group situation, just because of the nature of it. So I will do another version of this at some point in the future when I do another field, and we'll try to make that a little bit more hard wearing than this one is. So I just wanted to say that right away. So if anyone's watching this and shouting at the screen, why are you doing that, it's stupid, it's because of the situation I'm in. I'm used to making things slightly less durable, but I will try to be a little more durable in the future. The next task on the Balin's tomb build is to take this length that I've already pre-cut, which has also been marked up to have the archway on it, as you can probably see just about there, and cut another one exactly the same size, and then work out what I'll need to have for the cross piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to score along with this and use my knife to do that, and then cut it out with multiple smooth passes, as you should do when you're cutting foam. Now I don't use a foam cutter because this stuff is very, very tough. I'll tidy up, offer that up, measure up and get cutting the next one. Hello and welcome back to my hobby room. It's Saturday, and as the vlog goes out tomorrow there's not very much more going to happen, but I am getting back into the hobby room for a very short while now, and so let me point the camera at the desk and show you what I'm going to be working on. The Hobbit Holes are coming on very well indeed. I finished them, or nearly finished them, the other day with putting the flock, and then I sealed them with a very heavy spray of my PVA and water mix. Now that they're nice and dry and nothing's coming off them, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of these, which are like purple flowers, and then over here I have some other flocks, homemade flocks made with sawdust and paint, that I'm also going to put on as flowers. The final thing that I'm going to do is I've made up these archery butts, and one of these houses, probably this one, is going to have this as a bit of scatter terrain, just kind of nestled in there as if it's ready and waiting to be taken and used, and I might put a bow and a quiver or something there as well, just to dress that up. I'm not going to go too crazy on these, as these are scatter terrain, but I think that's a nice touch to have. So what I'm going to do now is get that started and I will show you when I'm back. That's some flock and some other bushes put onto each of these Hobbit holes, and I'm really pleased with how they're looking. And as you can see on this one, we have the A-frame for the archery butt. I'm going to have to wait until the other bit, the circular bit, the target is dry so that I can paint on the rings, and then we'll be completed. So I will show you that at that point. This is now going to be left to dry probably for a little while until I get back upstairs again. As I say, Christmas does mean that I get less hobbying, but it's Christmas, so you can't argue. I didn't turn the camera back on while I was doing more cutting and shaping because it wasn't very good footage anyway, and I wanted to have a play around because I was a little uncertain as to how this was going to work. And what I've done is I've cut the sides, as you saw, and I've also put in place the centerpieces. You can see there the door cutout and the back area. I've also put across a little bit of a strengthener here, which will probably stay, I'm not sure, but for now that's just keeping this square. And I've used the cocktail sticks here to temporarily pin it in place. Now this isn't quite how it's going to be, but it's given me a really good opportunity to look at it and sit down and not rush. And that's a very important thing to do. You can't really undo cuts. So if you're not sure, and I wasn't sure, just stop. Just look at it, just let it settle in, and then what you need to do will become apparent, and there's no need to hurry. Now, what I do like is that front aspect. This is more for the photographs, so this is more of a display board part of it, and that we are currently watching through the videos. That's pretty good for what it looks like in the film. However, this bit is not very playable at all, and that's an issue. Myself and Angela have been talking it through, and so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to trim down this back area to maybe 6 inches, maybe 5 or 6 inches, 4 or 5 inches, so that it's a much more playable thing. And actually that fits in with the films because you have the huge hall out the front with all of those amazing pillars, and then the actual Balin's tomb feels a lot more constrained, a lot smaller, a lot lower ceilinged, and so that will fit in quite nicely. But what I will also be doing is putting some more structures in, some stairs. The doorway is actually at the end of a little corridor, so I'll be putting that in, making it look a lot more like the films, and hopefully that will also make it a little more fun to play on. So that's where I'm up to with this now. I will be coming back to this at some point very soon, but I thought that a quick overview of where I got to would be very useful at this stage, particularly as I hadn't been filming the cuts, but you really haven't missed much. Welcome to the end of the video, and well done for getting this far. So, I thought that I hadn't done very much, but it turns out that there was a fair bit more done than I realised. You've seen the Hobbit holes nearly done to completion, the field is coming along well, and even the Balin's tomb diorama is now beginning to take shape. If you are not yet subscribing, please do so. It is brilliant to see so many of you are. And don't forget to ding the bell if you have subscribed so that you get informed whenever one of my videos does come along. If you have any comments on anything that is included in this video, please do add them below. I love to hear from you. And as always, thank you very much for watching my videos.